As I read the passage this morning about the blind beggar, I found myself wondering about the consequences of being healed, about how it changes our life. I think we read most of these healing stories, and we imagine that after the person's healed, there is this happy, perfect ending. And that we want that in our lives too. We want to somehow have this experience of being healed so our life is perfect. And that's often the message of the self-help movement, right? Like that there is a perfect you out there somewhere, that if you work hard enough, you will achieve that perfect you, and then your life will end like a happy sitcom. I don't know anyone who's had that experience, but I think we tend to read the miracle stories in the Bible that way. And just as an aside, I need to say at the beginning, because everyone's question always seems to be, did it really happen? Was this blind person really healed? Was this leper really cleansed? Did that really happen? Is it, quotation marks, true? Here's the answer. We don't know. We can't say for sure whether it happened or not, literally, physically at that time in history. What we can say is this, that there were recorded incidents of many healings by many different people, including Jesus, but there were also other healers working at that time. We can also say that there were many people who were not healed, and that there were many people who remained blind, who remained leper, who remained lame. And we can say that at this point in history, some people seem to experience healing and others don't. And there is no, a causal relationship between their faith and being healed. There's people who experience healing who are not faithful in the way we understand faith at all, and there's people who are deeply and profoundly faithful who live their whole life with a challenge or a disability or a problem, or who die much younger than we expect. So those are things that we can say about it, and I'll leave it with you to decide what happened historically. I can't answer that question with any certainty. Do I believe it's possible? Yes, I do. But William Willimon puts it very succinctly. He said, because of the information I've shared with you about there being other healers and some people not being healed, he believes that all of Jesus' healings are sermons embodied in practice. In other words, when we hear the story, we have to be asking ourselves, what part of this story touches me? What part of this experience, this story, makes something vibrate in who I am, calls me to respond in some way that leads to my own healing. And so each time we hear it, we may hear it differently. We know the story now. We've heard it a couple of times today already. A blind beggar, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. And if you missed that, all it is repeating, right? Bar means son. Timaeus is the name of his father. So Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, is there at the side of the road. We know he wasn't always blind, but he's blind now. And he says, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. And he shouts out, and people tell him to be quiet. But he keeps shouting, even louder, even more intensity, more urgency, yelling and yelling, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Until Jesus hears him in the crowd and stops and says, tell him to come here. And the disciples and people around say, take heart, he's calling. They're a little bit disturbed that this person on the margin is coming so close to the one they've come to see. And Jesus says to Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? Now, because we read the Bible in little chunks, we may miss the part of this story. It's a bit of a jab at James and John, the sons of Zebedee. Because in the chapter before, they have come to Jesus and they say, Jesus, we want you to do something for us. And Jesus says in the exact same words that he says to Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? And what James and John want is seats of power in Jesus' coming political and geopolitical kingdom. And Jesus says, I can't promise you that. So he asks the same question to Bartimaeus. And in some ways, maybe the same question he asks to all of us every day. What is it you want me to do for you? Bartimaeus' request is simple. I want to see again. And hear again. Because it's like music is playing in my ears. Bartimaeus says, I want to see again. And Jesus says, your faith has made you well. Go. But Bartimaeus doesn't go. He follows Jesus. And that's the story we have today. We wonder about what faith might mean in this context. We so often use it to mean as subscription is an intellectual idea to an idea that is can't be proved. That's to be faithful when we use it in the context of religion. But think about the other ways that the term faith is used. Faith is sometimes used to describe fidelity. I'm a faithful partner. I'm a faithful member of a congregation. I'm a faithful member to I'm faithful to my children's needs. It has to do with fidelity. It has to be loyalty. So was Bartimaeus faithful that way? Sometimes it means to trust. I have faith in someone. I trust them. I trust who they are. Maybe that's the kind of faith Bartimaeus had. I think that the kind of faith he had was the belief that he had a right to call out, that he had a right not to be pushed aside, that he knew that right now something was possible to change in his life. And he was healed of his blindness as a result of that faith. But as I read the story, the other image that came to my mind is the picture of the 33 miners in Chile in 2010. Remember, 69 days trapped underground. And they came up and they had to put sunglasses on because they'd been in the dark so long they couldn't see. And I found myself thinking, wow, I wonder if, Bartimaeus had to kind of shield his eyes for a little while, because suddenly being able to see can be quite a traumatic event. Suddenly walking out of a matinee in the dark into the light, it's uncomfortable. And not only is it uncomfortable, it doesn't guarantee that life is going to be perfect now. I did a little checking this week back on those Chilean miners. When we left the story with them, they had been rescued. They had been given money. Some of them been given homes, guarantees of jobs. One of them, I forget his first name, Sanchez, traveled all around the world. He was in Greece on cruises, and he went to Jerusalem, and he went, all these places. He went to Disney World. It was just amazing, and we all celebrate. Isn't it wonderful that they've been rescued and their lives have been turned around and it's perfect? A year later, only 2 of them were employed. Many of them were suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, being trapped underground for a long time. None of them, like the ex-leper in the video with Life of Brian, could go back to their old job having been rescued from it once. Many of them were dealing with drugs and alcohol. Many of their family relations had fallen apart. Most of them felt a deep sense of hopelessness and poverty. Sometimes we say, be careful what you pray for. Sometimes having our eyes open isn't all it's cracked up to be. Having our eyes open to the injustices of this world. Having our eyes open to poverty. Having our eyes open to the treatment of some people in our society because of physical disability or intellectual one. We all, I think, heard the comments about referring to Barack Obama as retarded, and the letter that the young man from the Special Olympics wrote to her, and what a fine example of wisdom it was. We know that if our eyes are open to these sorts of things, we can't keep living the way we've always lived. We can no longer beg for crumbs at the side of the road with Bartimaeus. Our eyes are often also not only open to the world around us and the injustices of it and call us to live some transformative way, they're open to our own inner life. They're open to who we are as people. And an awareness that we need to live maybe differently than we have. We need to be in our relationships in a different way than we've always been. Be careful what you pray for. Be careful what you ask Jesus for. Because if you ask for your eyes to be opened, your life will be changed by it, if they are truly opened, or have been changed by it. And remember that we can become blind again, just as Bartimaeus was once seeing and became blind and saw again. The invitation is always to have our eyes opened and reopened to the world and to how we live in it. Sometimes, like the ex-leper, we'd like to be able to stay blind, maybe just on work days, so we could continue begging, or so that we could go to work and do our job and not have to think too much about how it impacts us and the world around us. But the alternative is to have our eyes open. The alternative is to join in a community that's following in the way of Jesus in the world. There's no guarantee that it'll be a happy ending. There's no guarantee that everything will become perfect for us. But what there is a guarantee is that adventure will call us more deeply, more profoundly into the life in the Spirit. And that there, in that place together, our eyes will be fully open. And with our eyes open, so too will our hearts be open. Amen.